So the film Mother, with an exclamation point, directed by Darren Aronofsky, was quite the interesting viewing experience, to put things in the most vague terms. At the most basic level, Mother is about two people living in a house, which other people enter throughout the film. It's rather awkward and mildly tense for the first portion of the movie, which rolls along at a snail's pace, but does capture enough uncertainty and intrigue to keep you watching. There is no mistake that the work is grounded in an allegorical framework from the very start, as everything feels a bit off and detached from reality. The attitude I had as the movie began to unfold was, alright then, show me where you're gonna go with this. The filming style is one that centers heavily around the lead, Jennifer Lawrence. We often see over her shoulder and even from her perspective, and there are countless close-ups on her face, like a ridiculous amount really. The framing is a deliberate invasion of personal space. At the start of the film, it's highly uncomfortable and feels like it will be a daunting task to sit through the entire film if the camera work remains the same, but I personally managed to get used to it relatively quickly. If you can't get used to the personal space intruding shots though, you're gonna be in for a bad time. Due to the framing, in which we get to see every single tiny minute reaction from the lead character, Jennifer Lawrence has the entire film relying on her performance, and she nails it. Her acting is superb. She is the raw emotional core of the film, and she definitely pulls the responsibility off. So as I already said, the film starts off fairly slow, and for the majority of the time, I kept feeling like I was waiting for everything to explode, for the powder keg that's been gradually set up to go off, and by the end, it most certainly does. To a ridiculous extent. Once the movie decides it's time for things to finally move, the pacing becomes violent and the events multiply in magnitude. If you made it to the middle of the film and are getting really bored, I would urge you to hold out until the end. I mean, at that point, chances are you won't like it anyway, but come on, sit yourself down for something atypical. And if you think the film makes no sense, well, maybe just use your brain a little harder, because the majority of the film is pretty goddamn on the nose. So what I personally found the most interesting about Mother, and what I feel it did stupendously, was amalgamize the highly personal and individualistic with the global and collectivistic. The film at times felt like a stream of consciousness that combined two completely polar opposite scales of metaphor and allegory. And just to be out with it already, as if the title didn't already give it away, one of the things the film is definitely about is Christianity. There's lots of other stuff in there too, but the basis in Christianity becomes so exceedingly overt toward the end that I want to say it should be impossible to miss. You don't have to bother looking for it too hard in the first half, but in the final act it becomes bloody obvious. I liked how the film tried to portray a personal, spiritual connection while simultaneously exploring how those connections can manifest on a global scale. Now, the dissection was handled with the care and delicacy of a morning star, but in my opinion, that depraved bluntness is also what made it an interesting and unique experience. There was some restraint at first, but as the film approaches its end, things become absolutely absurd ludicrously fast. Nearly unbelievably absurd, to the point of stupidity even, but I personally came out feeling my time was well spent when all was said and done. Although, I don't think I would want to watch the film a second time. Beyond the rooting in Christianity, other themes and allegories that are generously mixed in are about environmentalism, the process of creativity, ego, devotion, sexism, abusive relationships, and a handful of other things. I definitely think, though, that all these additional aspects are grounded within the Judeo-Christian inspired framework, although there's some original spins and strong opinions on religion mixed in from the director. Is the film ambitious? You know, I have a rather hard time answering that, because if you take a step back and try to grasp the full scope of what the film explores, it isn't exactly filled to bursting with depth, far from it actually. It's more of a straightforward vision than anything, although it's a vision that most people, for better or for worse, probably would not pursue and try to bring to life. Mother certainly does take risks by being the hodgepodge that it is, so I would describe it as daring, but I'm not sure if I'd go as far as to call it ambitious. While I would not label the film as a tour de force, it's definitely something. I would recommend it, though there will definitely be a whole lot of people who won't enjoy it. That's already well established by now. But full of sound and fury signifying nothing, it most certainly is not. Now, having said all this, I have seen some great criticisms from people who disliked Mother, though unfortunately those are far outnumbered by terrible criticisms. Check out the video by Stretchy Movies for a good negative review of the film if you'd like. And that's that! If you do decide to see the film because of me and absolutely hate it, please don't burn my house down.